Welcome to the SciFi Pubcast. Come for a drink, but stay for the speculation. We're talking Willow, the new series on Disney Plus, and the original 1988 film of the same name. Spoiler alert, it's magical. So grab a tankard of ale and drink to your heart's content. This is the SciFi Pubcast. Greetings, welcome to the SciFi Pubcast, the podcast that tries to be a pub, and perhaps someday a pub that tries to be a podcast. As always, we are looking for customers to come visit our bar. So if you're passionate about something, you want to be on a podcast, well, let us know, because this bar is all about community. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a 5-star review wherever you find the show and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Yes, this is Joel. I'm the owner of the SciFi Pubcast, so to speak, and today we have Derek Beebe and Keri Simpson, our regular staff members at the pub. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, happy 2023, is it? Sorry.
Yes, 2023.
Oh, God.
Pretty sure it's still 2020.
Oh, God. It was like 2025.
We've all lost time because of the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah, and we're all getting older, and yeah, that's not good. I can't believe it's in the 2000s. That's how old I am. Oof.
I know.
I
know.
The 90s was just yesterday. Yeah, don't grow up, kids. Okay. Oh, well. But Keri, how's life in Southern California? I heard you got some rain or rain's on the way, or it's
we got some rain. It's going to rain again this week. There's a bit of a aerial river or something like that. Climate change is a liberal hoax and all that. So yeah. Fun times.
If it's not drought, it's something else. California is a fun place. It's very much its own country. It could be its own country economically, but
I mean, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. So we pretty much are our own economy.
Great. If California wants to join Canada, we probably can arrange it up here. Just saying. You have to pay some taxes, of course, and probably pay our debt off. But there's that. And then there's Derek. Derek, man. It's been, a week since I saw you in person in the hills of Pennsylvania. How's things with you?
I am busy fulfilling New Year's resolutions, trying to change my life for the better this year. I've already fulfilled a few of them. I went to see Avatar 2 for a second time in the high frame rate. So you could say I directly contributed to it now being the 7th highest grossing film in history with $1.7 billion. And it's just going to keep climbing. And he's already said he's making Avatar 3, 4, 5, so we have that to look forward to. And I bought 2 new toilets, not for the pub, but for my apartment.
Is this your first?
Slowly falling apart.
So is this the first time you bought toilets? Okay.
It is, yeah. These are the same toilets that came with the apartment that I got 10 years ago. So I got new toilets, got a plumber coming in to install them. I am back to querying agents for my books. I sent out 12 queries last night, and my New Year's resolution is that if I don't get something in 6 months' time, I'm just going to pay to self-publish at least one of my books so that they are out there, because that is my life's purpose. I'm going to be 42 years old this year, and nobody's read my stories. So, I got to get them out there. The clock is ticking. The sands are running out.
And 42 is a special number, as we all know. So I think this is your year, Derek.
Yeah.
Just do it, baby. Just do it. Yep. And I got to ask you this, because I usually flub this line. How's our kitchen doing, Derek? At the SciFi Pubcast.
Well, it doesn't have any new toilets in it, but I've been told it is a toilet sometimes before. So, not that I agree with that. But in terms of food, it kind of reminds me of the show we're watching, because in the first episode, Dawn/Elora Dannon, she is a cook, and everybody talks about how good her food is. And to me, that kind of made her an unrealistic, unsympathetic character, because I can't really identify with someone, who cooks well or who makes food that people enjoy. But then halfway through the episode, she burns all her muffins and everybody thinks they're terrible. And that's when the character landed for me. And that's when I really started to like her.
Okay, great. So we're going to be serving burnt muffins
Yeah, well, I've always said something isn't done cooking until it's burnt. You need a little bit of char on there to really get the flavor to come out.
Okay, and by muffins, you really mean muffins. It's not like we're using a code word for something else, right? Or like a metaphor, right?
Well, I mean, anything's a muffin. I mean, you can put lots of things in a muffin,
I'm.
Oh God!
Wow.
Okay, I'm just.
I almost walked into my kitchen and to ignore this conversation, but
I mean, it's the same thing as a hot
Wow.
dog. You can put anything in a hot dog. You can put the same things in a muffin and call it a muffin.
Okay. I'm calling it. We're closing our doors.
No, Derek, just stop. You're already way behind here.
Oh God. Hey, thanks for asking what I've been up to, guys.
What's up with you, Joel?
What have you been up to?
Well, I'm still doing my PhD at Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. I'm starting to write my dissertation. I'll be working closely with our friend, Reynold Graham, which is going to be scary as hell because he's so smart and I'm a bit rough around the edges, so to speak. But we have an interesting topic idea. And so, yeah, I'll be talking about science fiction and technology and how it can be helpful in solving issues in emerging technologies in terms of the law and how the law deals with these new problems that technology creates. So it should be a blast. So, yeah, think space debris.
Nice.
Yeah, I have to get more than just space debris or it's going to be a very boring dissertation. But I'm working on it. What else? I finally got down to Pennsylvania to visit my relatives, and as was Derek. I'm not related to Derek by any ways, but
I was about to ask.
Like an hour away from where my aunts and my cousins live. So I saw Derek for briefly. We had some a Philly cheesesteak down in downtown, wherever he lives, in a really neat restaurant. So that was good, really good. See, I didn't out your town. See what I just did there, Derek?
You didn't give away assassination coordinates.
Absolutely. And then I spent several days down in Washington, D.C., going through the Smithsonian museums and other things like that. So that was great. I love walking around museums and spent some time at this one little tourist hotel bar in downtown Washington called Harry's, which I highly recommend. It was Richie's the bartender. He was a pretty good guy. So there's that.
You said before we recorded that you managed to avoid the shit show that is our federal government arguing with itself.
Yeah, it's funny because I went down there right before the whole conflict or I don't know, shit show, you want to use Keri's word, for the Speaker of the House in terms of the majority speaker, the majority leader. And it was still difficult.
In name only, apparently, but yeah.
Oh, God. Well, it's funny because Washington, D.C. was really dead. Like, the museums were busy, but besides that, no one in government was in town. I can tell you that. It was just a bunch of tourists. So it was nice. And then, of course, I came back and all this happened in Washington, D.C. Would have been fun to be in a bar watching this live on TV just down the block from Capitol Hill. Perhaps next time. Okay. But that's my update. But we're not going to be talking about the U.S. politics, hopefully, in this episode. Because, well, let me say this. An unlikely group of heroes set off on a dangerous quest to places far beyond their home, where they must face their inner demons and come together to save the world. Wait, that's not us, right? The SciFi Pubcast? No,
that's the plot in the kitchen.
That's the plot summary of Willow, the new TV show on Disney+. Yes, we're talking about Willow. And at the time of recording, we've seen the first 7 of 8 episodes. The season finale drops in a few days. So we don't know how this is going to end. But I suspect that it's going to end well for our heroes. What do you guys think?
Well, unless it ends on a cliffhanger, in which case, we have to wait and see if they, decide to renew it for another season.
Yeah, I think they will. I think I'm trying not to make the obvious pun. Okay. I think it's going to be good. Okay, let's go this way. My initial thought, I usually ask you guys for your initial thoughts first, but my initial thoughts is we're a pretty goofy teenage young adult fantasy series. I think this is an excellent series because of the dialogue and the fact that it's written so that there's a lot of adult jokes in it. We can go on about the Muffin Girl and all that good stuff. That when I heard it the first time, this just cracked me up. And there's always these one-liners just added on, and to me that's just great. that's just great dialogue all around. And so it's caught my attention. That's my initial thoughts. I know Derek has some strong feelings, so I'm going to throw over to Keri for her initial thoughts before turning to you, Derek.
I've been really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. It very much is in the spirit of the original movie. The only thing it's really missing is Mad Mardigan. Well, actually seeing Val Kilmer, but I get that there were logistical and pandemic concerns, what with Val recovering from cancer and all that. So I was fine with it there, and who knows if we get another season, maybe we'll actually see Mad Mardigan in the flesh, so to speak. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, they filmed this in Wales apparently, and during COVID, and so I'm sure it was challenging for the production crew. And if you are at all sick or immuno compromised, that would have been impossible. But I can't wait to see Mad Mardigan in Keri, probably hopefully in the second season. Val Kilmer, what a great guy. I love. He's one of my childhood heroes. With him and being like Top Gun and Heat, and was a Real Genius, a bunch of them. Just awesome. But Derek, what's your initial take on this TV series, Willow?
Well, I'm confused. You said they filmed it in Wales, but how did they keep the whales out of the water, or did they go in the water and then go back up to surface for oxygen?
No.
And also, how did they do the
country
fake
of Wales
sunshine and everything?
Yeah, we're not talking about space whales. We're talking about fantasy. So it's fantasy whales.
Oh, they must have been really big then.
Yeah, very big. Well, but anyway,
there's a country called Wales. It's part of the UK, right, Derek?
Well, it's part of the UK. So, I mean, it's not technically its own country, right? Because it's part of the country of the United Kingdom.
No, it's an own country within the United Kingdom. They've been consistent in their culture and language for over 1,000 years, and despite some conflicts with England and with English kingdoms during the Middle Ages. Yeah, and of course the Norman invasion. Yeah, they have their own soccer team. Let's just say that. Okay. Or football team.
Did they ever swim farther away, or do they just stay close to the British Islands?
Good. One theory has it that King Arthur is actually from
I don't have time to discuss geography from.
So
I'm
Willow.
not discussing geography with you, Derek.
Okay, what's your take, Derek, on Willow?
I'm really enjoying the show. I wanted to ask what your guys' connection to the original film was. Now, for me, I was 7 years old when it came out. I always liked it, but it was never an obsession or anything. It wasn't a movie I watched over and over again like Star Wars or Indiana Jones. So while I liked the movie, it wasn't, a fundamental piece of my childhood or anything. So while I have a nostalgic feeling for it, it's not, to the level of one of my great loves. So going into the show, I was looking forward to it. I was hoping it would be good, but it wasn't something I was dying to see. And I was very pleasantly surprised, especially given the fact that Willow is, for the most part, the only legacy character that's in it regularly. And it does mostly star brand new people. And normally that's kind of like a kiss of death for a legacy sequel. But I'm really enjoying it. And it's mainly because of the new characters. I was very pleasantly surprised by the performances, by the actors, by the dialogue and the characters. They're legitimately good and legitimately funny. That's the other thing that really blew me away about this show. It is really funny. Sometimes it's a little too modern sounding with the jokes that they make, but that's okay. I really enjoy it. There's so many characters that really stand out that I never expected to, like Borman, the Mad Mardigan's co-worker or co-warrior. He is so good. He's so funny.
Squire.
That guy is hilarious. And I would love to see him in so many other things because he is so incredibly charming and funny, but he can also be kind of, dark and mysterious and sinister at times as well. That's a really great performance. And I think that the people playing Alora and Kit are both also really good, really charming and funny. And of course, Enfys Nest. I always forget her real name. That's just what I call her. But all of the characters are so great. And the location filming is gorgeous. They obviously are, they're not just filming on the volume all day. They're out there in the real world doing these things. Although I did notice that the most recent episode when they were crossing the sea, I think that was on the volume. That looked a little, box screen-y kind of thing. But for the most part, it looks gorgeous. My only complaint is that I did notice when I was rewatching the first episode last night, the first episode sets up the threat and this trio of supervillains coming after them. And we don't really see much of them over the course of the show. It's mostly them just kind of crossing the country and running into random new villains. I do think that the show kind of has a villain problem in that we don't really have one. We have this trio of people who basically don't talk coming after them, and occasionally they show up and then they get defeated and go away. And the crone is the main villain, but we haven't actually seen her presence yet. Although I am convinced, of course, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I'm convinced that the pretty girl who Eric is with is actually the crone in disguise. But, it's kind of obvious. But aside from that, I think it's a great show. I love it. I wish they had more budget for more action scenes because I kind of feel like they're walking and talking a lot, but not fighting a lot. But aside from that, amazing show. Absolutely love it. I'm going to be very sad when it ends, and I hope they do more.
That's a good initial take there.
So the guy who plays Borman was in 2 episodes of Wheel of Time. Is Lord Yakoda.
Wheel of Time?
I have no idea who.
Oh, really? I watched that, but I didn't.
In Wheel of Time. Yeah, I didn't remember him either. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. And Erin Kellyman is the girl who plays Jade, aka Enfys Nest. For those of you who are playing the home game and understand that Derek is bad with names.
And I look at everything through the prism of Star Wars.
Of course you do. So I was 11 when this came out, and I've seen this movie so many. My friends and I have seen this movie so many times that my best friend's brother cannot watch the movie at all because we will just sit there and quote it, and he finally got sick of us doing that and would leave the room. We were terrible. But yeah, this is one of my favorite fantasy movies of all time. I love how much this is in the spirit of the movie itself, and I don't know. I kind of liken the crone to kind of like the Emperor in the first Star Wars movie, where first 2 Star Wars movies really, you don't really see the Emperor and what he's capable of until Return of the Jedi. So it actually kind of works, and the 3, I forget what they're called, the 3 things that keep chasing them are like
the Gales.
The Gales. They're just like this ever-present threat, and when they do show up, it's like shit's going down. But in the meantime, there's all this other stuff that's going on. I like that they've kind of incorporated the original movie into several of the episodes. My only complaint so far is episode 3. For all of you who were complaining about how dark the battles in season 8 of Game of Thrones was, Willow just decided to hold their beer. Because I could barely, and dark, I mean lighting wise. It's not dark as in, really, really scary and terrifying. Just dark as in I could barely see what was going on. And that was a problem, but I got over it.
Yeah, wow.
It's funny. I didn't even notice that when the episode aired, and then I saw people complaining afterwards, and I had to think back. I didn't even notice it, so it didn't even bother me. But I understand why it would bother people.
Yeah, I was 14 when the movie came out in 1988, and of course I saw it. It didn't make a great impression on me. I rewatched it again over the years sometimes, especially when I first got Disney Plus, when Disney Plus just became a thing a couple years ago. I saw it, and I rewatched it again last night. It's a silly fantasy film that has a cult following. It's not offensive. It's very derivative of the Lord of the Rings in many ways, and I think the movie was funny. It was some good one-liners in the movie itself. But I think what the series does well is it embraces its goofiness and its silliness and runs with it. and plays with the different tropes. And I think that is excellent. And to me, is that I have to think. I think about this stuff. Is Willow, is that a young person's movie? Is it a young adult's fantasy? Or older guys like me, can we find enjoyment out of it as well? Having past that point of our lives where teenage angst isn't really a thing anymore. I think it's both. That's why I think it works, and I hopefully it gets renewed, and hopefully it gets a couple more seasons, because there's a lot worse TV out there, and every episode something makes me smile, or I giggle. I can't believe I'm saying that. Yeah, I giggle at the stupid jokes. Yeah. And by the way, the actor who plays Borman, his name is Amar Chadha-Patel. So there's that. Mixed cast. We should talk about the casting, because I think casting's great.
Yes.
And I think it's not a bunch of old white guys from England playing it, which is good. Sorry, work. I know he's old.
Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate that there are a lot of people of color and a lot of diversity in the cast. I did call Elora Danon's reveal pretty much from the beginning of the show. It was basically down to either Muffin Girl or Jade, and I was like, oh, it's her. It's the blonde. Of course, it's the blonde.
Yeah, and that was great, because this typical servant, and my brain goes to what stupid teenage fantasy tropes are we going to show the viewer, and then they just turn it on its head, right? Okay, and the fact that they, the muffin joke, the servant being really royalty. That's been with us as a trope for since the Bible and before that, right? So it's good. I like how the writers are playing with these conventions.
I was actually convinced that Jade was Elora Danan, because she had red hair and Elora Danan had red hair, and it made sense because she was the princess's bodyguard, which meant she was always right next to the princess and would get the same protection that she would. So I was watching the first episode. I felt pretty safe about my guess, and I was wondering about who all these actors were. So I went onto Wikipedia to see what their names were, and boom, it spoiled me that Muffin Girl was Elora Danan about 15 minutes before they showed it in the episode, and I was so pissed at myself.
What a half-baked idea.
Well, okay. Although, do you notice, and no one's actually commented on the show, but as the show has progressed, Elora's hair has gotten progressively redder.
Yeah, I noticed that in this week's episode, and I asked my friend,
I don't know if that's supposed to be some.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's supposed to be like some kind of sign that she's going more towards the dark side, or just that her power is, that she's using her power more. But it's just like, is that intentional?
I think it is, because in the first or second episode, I think it was the second episode with the flashbacks, they explained that they actually dyed her hair using herbs and spices and other things like that, right? Ooh. And now she's on this quest, she probably can't do her hair anymore, so of course it's turning into her natural color.
Yeah, but shouldn't it be like a slow progression of it starting at the root and going down?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just seemed to turn instantly red. Are you not an expert on hair and hair dyeing, Joel?
No, unfortunately, since I'm a bald guy, and not particularly, but I do watch YouTube videos. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that they haven't been on the quest long enough for her hair to grow out, but it's kind of like it started out as like this little streak, and then the streak got whiter when they went down into the troll city, and then by this last episode her hair was completely red, and it's not something I would normally notice, except I did, and I was just like, huh. Yeah. And I know this isn't in our show notes, but it kind of some of the stuff they've been touching on kind of has me thinking back to the trilogy that George Lucas and Chris Claremont wrote, that is apparently no longer relevant for the series itself, but there was this thing where they said that Elora Danan had to experience all of the realms in order to harmonize everything, and at one point she does go dark, and then she comes back, and it was an interesting quest that one.
I have a very vague memory of reading the first book of that trilogy and not really caring for it that much.
The first book is a bit of a slog. The next two are better. I'm convinced that it's possibly because Chris Claremont wrote the majority of the last two instead of George Lucas, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was such a disappointment for me because I loved Willow the movie, I loved George Lucas, and I was obsessed with Chris Claremont's X-Men as a teenager. So the fact that he was writing a Willow sequel, I was so excited for it, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?"
Plus that book trilogy has dragons, and I haven't yet to see a dragon in the show. So I'm slightly disappointed there.
They need more money.
There was this two-headed thing from the film, right? But not from the show. The two-headed.
That wasn't a dragon. Yeah. That was a
something like that. Yeah.
That was a troll that got mutilated by Willow's magic. Screwing up.
Trolls like this series need more trolls. I actually like the fact that the trolls in the series is very articulated and very sharp and intelligent.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great idea. Episode 6 was definitely my favorite up to that point. I thought that I really liked the idea that there was this society of actually hyper-intelligent trolls, and their leader was very smart and urbane and sarcastic. He was a really interesting villainous character who unfortunately didn't stay with us past that episode. But that was a really great episode.
Well,
and of course, having Christian Slater was so cool. I really wanted him to stay through the rest of the story.
Yeah. I just know how Christian.
Who knows? Maybe we really will see him again. We don't know.
I love how Christian
never
Slater
saw a body.
That's true. We never saw a body. I just love the fact that Christian Slater just shows up. He does that on TV shows occasionally. It's his thing, right? I remember him showing up for several seasons of The West Wing TV show on NBC in the early 2000s. And it's like, it's Christian Slater. Like, he's everywhere.
Well, his mom's a casting director, so he can probably get in if he really wants to be on something. No, there's an article I found where they apparently the cast-ins had started working on a sequel movie back in the 90s, and one of their first ideas was to cast Christian Slater as the character he eventually plays in the show. And apparently when they approached him to do the series, he was like, yes, I'm totally there. Just I'm doing it. And then they told him about this idea. He's like, yep, I would have done that too.
Yeah, I love the fact that there's so many scoundrels in the series, and why is it in Willow like scoundrels often are found in cages? It's another trope. Love that. And they can get pretty cagey. Okay. But we have Hannah Waddingham, right? Okay, the English actor, really well known for her Ted Lasso performances, and she was in Games of Thrones, right? And playing one of the woodcutters in one of the episodes, right? Like what?
Right.
And Kevin Pollak, Brownie, right? The brownies. Enough about muffins. Let's talk about brownies, shall we? Okay.
Yeah, I was actually very disappointed that we didn't get. Go ahead, Keri.
I love that Rule was back for this. I'm sorry we didn't have Fringine, but I can't be greedy.
I was actually very disappointed that we didn't get a Brownie as a regular character. I think that was another budget issue that came up. They couldn't afford to do all the size scaling, because to me, that was one of the really fun things about Willow, the original movie, having these little sarcastic, flying fairies going around. And I think that would have been a great addition to the cast here. And hell, I would have loved to have Kevin Pollak back for it as well. So if they do another season, I really hope they have a Brownie regular character this time.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Now, I know, Derek, offline, you've mentioned this before, but this use of contemporary music to support the story. To me, it reminds me of like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, right? Okay. It's like, is it, does it fit? No, but almost every TV show I know right now is using contemporary music to reinforce, themes and tone within stories.
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, I do not like contemporary music in an ancient fantasy setting. I think that kind of breaks the reality and the rules of it. I mean, in the JJ Star Trek movie, it makes sense at least because he's listening to a song that existed in his world. It was just old. But when they put like, modern day rock soundtracks in an ancient mystical fantasy series, that always kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Derek, you can be honest with us. You just don't like Metallica, right?
Honestly, I don't even know like which songs Metallica would have sung. I'm not a metal guy at all.
Okay. Yeah, but it goes to the whole thing, right? Like,
So
go ahead, Keri.
well, so he completely missed the Enter Sandman awesomeness.
Yeah,
I think it was episode 2 or 3.
He did. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he probably knows the song, but just doesn't know it was Metallica. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think a lot of young adult stories, they do that. I'm sure they do it, a lot of the vampire ones as well, or things that they're not even contemporary to the viewer's age. It just is so well known in many ways. Enter Sandman. I think I was a teenager when it came out, right? But it's been around for so long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's been. Yeah. Well, and I will admit that it rubbed me the wrong way the first couple of episodes, but I eventually grew on me. And it's like where are they trying to like emulate Britannia, where they have modern folksy music as either the opening or end credit music, but right. It's like, okay, this is how we're gonna do this. This is how we're gonna do this. Sure.
Yeah. And if they do like a musical episode, would that be too much? If they break out in song and dance?
Maybe.
If it's old timey music, it'll be good.
Maybe.
God. Yes, the prophecies. The whole thing with prophecies, you have the Illyria and Denon being saved by putting in a basically a straw basket and put on the river, very much like Moses did in the Old Testament, and it bears the mark, and all this. So we have this typical, not typical, like stereotypical debate of, free will versus free determination, and to me that's a really interesting argument. But when it's just throws out as a backdrop, to me they haven't really dealt with anything like that. It's just part of this really funky, very corny story. I hope they fill this up more. But I'm afraid if they do that, then it turns more into realism as opposed to complete and utter silly fantasy. So, what do you guys think?
I would just kind of take prophecies as part and parcel of the high fantasy genre. So, I don't really blink at it. I don't see it as kind of a flaw if they don't explain it properly, because just because something is prophesized doesn't mean it's necessarily going to come true. It's just a likelihood, not a certainty. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I do the kind of prophecy stuff in my own book that I'm trying to sell now. So everybody say what a great idea that is.
And to be fair, I mean the original movie kind of does end with the baby said you think everything's gonna be great, but the baby hasn't actually fulfilled the prophecy. With the whole original movie was just making sure the baby survived long enough to to fulfill the prophecy to begin with. So you never actually going to be supposed to do.
And perhaps the baby will grow up to be a teenager who will grow up to be a middle-aged person who grows up to be an old crone. I don't know. It could happen.
Assuming she lives that long, sure.
Yeah, why not?
So Joel is saying that the crone villain is a future version of Elora Dan and come back to the present. Ooh.
That might be it. Ooh.
That would be insane if that turned out to be true.
Which makes sense because she's dating the same guy then.
I kind of like that.
Oh yes, and because the mysterious girl that Eric meets is slowly seducing Eric, and Muffin Girl was in love with Eric.
Okay. See?
But
should be right.
But Graydon's in love with Elora, so that could be interesting too.
Yeah.
A love triangle in a YA story? What?
Hey, what are the odds?
Oh God. What else, guys? Characters, music, visuals, dialogue, battle scenes, acting, the beasts and trolls. What's happening? What you talking about?
I was getting kind of annoyed with Willow's refusal to explain his powers or lack thereof. until this last episode. So I'm glad they finally got around to that. I mean, he did kind of sort of admit it under the influence of drugs, like 3 episodes back. But
yeah,
it's like, dude, it's getting to the point where you really need to come clean and explain yourself, or like turn the shit around, turn the butt around.
Yeah,
except we can't because we have to go after Eric.
I think they're just playing out the themes from the magical fingers test, right? If you recall, it's during the movie, the first movie, or the movie from 1988, where the High Aldrin or / village wizard, and was wanted an apprentice. Pick a finger, right? It's as in which
pick your own finger.
And so pick your own phone, because the magic comes from you, not from an outside source. And we're seeing these themes played out right now. But you have to find that out the hard way, just because you need to realize and have confidence in yourself through your actions.
And I do understand that, but Willow's caginess kind of really got annoying by like episode 2 or 3, where they're like, no, use your magic. No, I don't. It's like, no, I can't. I'm like, well, explain why you can't, because you're very much, because if they can't count on you to actually save the day, then they're pretty much screwed until Alora figures out how to use her powers.
Yeah, but Keri, it could be worse. Work could be playing an Ewok right now.
This is true.
Yeah,
we already had that in Rise of Skywalker. So yeah,
exactly. Let me just ask this question. One of the main relationship plot themes in the series is between 2 gay characters. Does it matter?
No, it doesn't. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter on one level, because who cares? The other thing is that, but it does matter because it's in a major TV series, and that's good to see the representation, right? I'd like people to love each other, right? So.
It matters that it's a Disney show. So there's going to be the contingent of people who are up in arms, and I'm all here for them, being apoplectic about it, especially anyone in Florida who's, supporting certain politicians down there. Otherwise, it's great. I love Jaden and what's her name? I can't.
Ensis Nest.
Kit.
Kit and Jade. Kit played by Ruby Cruz, and Jade played by Erin Kellyman. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, going into this, I had no idea what the actual premise of the story was. So I was actually very surprised at the end of episode 1 when Eric got kidnapped and taken away, and the plot became about going on a quest to find him. Because watching episode 1, not knowing anything, it was basically setting up that the show is going to be a 2-hander with the brother and the sister being the main characters. So I was actually pretty surprised when one of the main characters was abducted and disappeared at the end of the first episode. Did you guys know what the shape of it was going to be? Did that surprise you?
No, but I think
it did kind of. Go ahead, Joel.
No, not really. I think it was just it was there to misdirect, and I think you need that, because if not, you watch it going, it's just gonna be a conventional story, and then there's a little plot twist like that, and I think that's a good form of storytelling.
Well, the other thing is that Eric's not the promotional materials for the show itself, so that was kind of a giveaway. And then when Sorsha started talking about how the blood of Bath Morda flows through all 3 of them, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a whole brother against sister thing. This is we no longer have the old extended universe for Star Wars, so we can't have the whole battle between Jaina and Jason, but now we're gonna have Eric versus Kit.
Oh God, yeah,
it's a good parallel.
It kind of makes up for it, maybe.
Yeah. Would we have any TV in terms of the fantasy / science fiction genres out there if you get rid of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars? Because we can always refer to
nope.
story structure or characters or themes going back to Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. This is like Joseph Campbell's revenge on us as fans, I think. Oh God.
Oh, speaking of Lord of the Rings, one of the other things I wanted to say about this show is that we've had some heavy, mostly serious fantasy dramas this year, like House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings. And Willow was such a breath of fresh air because it was lighthearted and fun and funny and goofy. And, that's kind of more to my sensibilities than something that's very dour and serious all the time. So I really enjoyed it for that reason as well, to get a high fantasy show that had such a strong sense of humor in it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. I prefer the more realistic stuff myself, but that, realism, but that's just who I am, right? And that's what I that is what compels me, these types of stories. To me, Willow, the story doesn't really compel me. It's the dialogue. I think just it's witty dialogue. And to me, that's enough for me to watch it. It compels me to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not the most, original or in-depth storyline, but, that's fine. Some things are just for fun.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we shut our doors?
The mud skipper in episode 7 was very cute. The huge monster snail thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I like good beasts, and I like that the whole mud flat thing. And to me, as a setting, as a visual backdrop, it works visually and it works metaphorically, and that's cool.
Yeah, that was that reminds me. One of the really cool visuals of this thing is the Immemorial City. It's this huge, vast skeleton of an ancient abandoned city, but it's an ancient world, but it looks like skyscrapers just going on forever. It's a very striking visual, and it's very creepy and dead there. And the way he walks out forever, and then he somehow like gets looped around back to the same place. That was a very cool, creepy setting. And the notion that it's on the other side of this far away flat sea is also very cool as well. So I like that stuff.
And at the bottom of a waterfall.
Yeah, and while episode that's right, the waterfall at the end of the world. I forgot about that. That was a very cool idea. Yeah. And I also obviously episode 6 was extremely Mines of Moria from Lord of the Rings, but it was still very cool to see, and to see like this big underground city with all these not orcs everywhere going around and everything, but still very striking visuals.
Yeah.
I was thinking more the Troll City from the first Hobbit movie, really.
Yeah.
Those are orcs.
Mines of Moria works too. Or orcs.
Yeah. They just need some stormtroopers.
I'm mixing my fantasy stories now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just need some stormtroopers down there. It'd be great. All right.
They still won't be able to hit anything.
All right. Any last thoughts before we close our doors at the Sci-Fi Pubcast?
I don't think so.
No. Great show. Love it. Can't wait to see the finale. I'll be shocked if the girl in the dead city is not the crone. Yeah,
that's true. Well, this show is available on most podcast platforms and on YouTube. Please subscribe today. For listeners' engagement announcements, follow us on Twitter at SciFi Pubcast. Yes, we're still on Twitter. Let's see how long that lasts. Or you can email us at management@scifipubcast.space. We love hearing from our listeners. Keri, what's your Twitter address?
My Twitter handle, for as long as Twitter stays around and relevant, is Keri Blackfire42. That's Keri Blackfire42.
And are you doing any other shows like over at the Random Chatter Network?
I'm still doing DC Talk. That one's kind of on hiatus at the moment. But Cape Chronicles and Enter the Dojo should be back this month.
Excellent. And Derek, where can people find you on Twitter?
I am at Derek J. Beebe, and my website is derekbeebe.com.
Reynolds sends his regrets. He'll come back on the show eventually. We have to talk to Ren about his new book, Nether Regions. That should be fun. Like, who doesn't like talking about Reynolds' Nether Regions? Really. But saying that, and speaking as his PhD
Reynolds got to get a solid trouble.
Yeah. This is what happens when you're a tenured professor. You just don't care anymore. Okay. God, what a privileged position to be in. But he deserves it. He's one of the smartest guys I know. So Randall can be found on Twitter at Randall_Graham. My Twitter address is very simple to find. It's my first and last name with an underscore in the middle of it. So I'm at Joel_Welch. WELCH. It's closing time. Take care. Please make it home safely. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Music provided courtesy of Logan Rathbone. Podcast logo by Jea Rhee. Copyrighted Joe Welch. Listen responsibly, and we can't wait for your next visit to our fine establishment. Cheers.